Hello, everyone. It's time for another video. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about submissiveness. One of the big things that I have been bringing up lately on my wall on Facebook and generating some controversy is this idea of women being submissive with all men, right? That seems to conflict with a lot of women's and men's beliefs about what submission really is, healthy submission, blah, blah, blah. So let's talk about it. By the way, if you haven't read my most recent post on my wall, read that one. It's a fun one. So there's a guy who commented. It was a really great question about gray areas with how this would really look in practical ways, right? And so one of the examples he gave, he was just asking my thoughts on it, was, okay, what if a woman is married, right? And there's someone like a guy at work, right, who's a coworker, and he asks her to, or asks to, not ask, let's say leads to get a coffee together. So let's say that the coffee was at work, right? Let's say, because it would be weirder if it was leading, I don't know, 5 blocks down the street to grab a coffee. Let's just say it was like a Tim Hortons. Oh, right. I think that's a Canadian thing. Starbucks coffee. It's in the building, right? There's just a Starbucks in the building. How could a woman deal with that, right? So there's a few possibilities. Let's just say, because there's a lot of possibilities that the husband would actually be okay with it, right? Like I can envision situations where I would be okay with it, and I can also envision situations where I would not be okay with it, and I would need some information on that, right? And I'm married. So let's say that for whatever reason, maybe the husband's not okay with it and the woman knows that, or the woman is just not okay with it because she's married. How can she remain, like, of course she could just be like, no, not doing that, I'm married, and just be like super masculine and create this boundary, solid boundary. And hey, you know what? If a woman wants to do that, she can do whatever the hell she wants, right? Just like if a man wants to not open doors for a woman, not give a shit how women feel, man can do whatever he wants. But I don't really believe in that. I believe that men should be devotional and considerate to a woman's feelings, even if it's a stranger or coworker or whatever. And I believe that a woman should be respectful and energetically submissive to a man, if it's just a stranger or a coworker. Now, if it's a creepy fuck, stalking her down the sidewalk, that's a different thing. We're not talking about creepy fucks, all right? We're just talking about normal guys. Most guys are just, they're they're human beings, right, with feelings, and they're deserving of respect, and usually with good intentions. So let's say she could say this, right? Obviously it depends on what she's actually feeling. Let's say that she actually feels flattered, right? But she doesn't want to do it for whatever reason. She can say like, I feel really flattered, but I'm married, right? Maybe the coworker didn't know that, right? We're just making some shit up as we go along. So a woman could say that in multiple ways. She could say, but I have a husband, as a boundary, right? And energetically, she has created that boundary, that wall. Or she can express that using feminine communication, right, where she's not actually energetically creating anything. Not a wall anyway. She's just expressed a problem, right? She just expressed a problem. That problem, I mean, it's a great problem for her. Oh, good, I'm married. But it's a problem in the context of the man was leading her to do something, and it's a problem for her because she's married, right? So now the man, he still gets to lead that, right? Even though there is this problem that she has presented. She is not led by setting that boundary. So he can now decide multiple things. He can press the issue and continue to lead her anyway. And be like, well, let's do this anyway. Like we don't have to tell your husband, right? Which is kind of a sneaky, weaselly thing to do. Or he could say, okay, no problem. I didn't realize that was an issue for you. Have a great day, and I'll get my own coffee, whatever. And he's leading that, right? He has led that decision to now not get a coffee. Or, depending on the specific situation, maybe they're friends, and it's not like he could lead further and be like, oh, okay, I didn't realize you're married or whatever. Would that be a problem for your husband, or would that be a problem for you? And now he's asking a leading question, right? It's masculine communication, and trying to find out, because in many situations it might be perfectly fine. I've worked at places where I have eaten meals or had drinks or whatever with women while I've been married, and it's a 100% platonic thing. And like never even crossed my mind that it's an issue. I'm not being flirtatious. I'm literally just talking to a woman, right? So it really depends on so much context. But the point is here, the woman is energetically submissive, right? She's energetically submissive and still allowing the man to lead further, rather than energetically leading and setting a boundary, right? So being energetically submissive doesn't mean that she's going to ultimately comply with the man's leadership. And, context depends on so many different situations. It really depends what the man does with that information. The information that she gives her without setting boundaries, without leading. Maybe what she needs is some reassurance, right? Maybe she's using feminine communication and just stating a problem, and the man is like, okay, that's cool. I just want to let you know my intentions are purely platonic. I have no interest in any way, getting in between you and your husband. I honor that relationship. I just, enjoy talking to you at work, and wanted to talk to you over coffee because everyone else here sucks balls and they're boring. That could be a very innocent thing, and a woman can feel his intentions in that. And of course, right, if it's a truly healthy relationship, whether it's a boyfriend or marriage, she would be telling her husband, whether she ended up doing it or not, right? Depending on whether she was comfortable, and asking, right, is it okay to do this, right? May I have some clarity on whether it's okay to do this, right? She's asking for expectations of the container, right? And once again, being energetically submissive. So a woman can remain in that energetically submissive state until a man is showing her, and the man could be like her husband or boyfriend or total stranger, coworker, whatever, until that man is showing her, I'm not really devotional. I'm like really incompetent as a leader, is the other possibility. And then she might have to flow away, right? Because now that man is demonstrating a lack of healthy leadership, and now she has to lead herself, right? Because the man is maybe selfish, maybe he's creepy, maybe he's just trying to violate the relationship container, right? If we're talking, because I'm using the example of a woman that's in a relationship, but we could also be talking about single women in different contexts. Maybe he's doesn't give a crap about the relationship container and is totally cool with violating it. That's obviously a really big problem. And so at some point, if a man starts demonstrating that, then a woman is going to have to flow away. She doesn't even have to set a boundary, right? She can say like, I feel really uncomfortable. I don't know what to do right now. I need to walk away. I need to, be alone, whatever. So what is she doing in that moment? She has to lead herself because the man was not considering her. He wasn't considering her feelings, wasn't considering her needs, wasn't considering honoring the container of a relationship if it was in a relationship context. Um, all of that, right? But the whole time she's staying energetically submissive. And I really want to hammer home this point because when we talk about submission, we often are thinking of it as an action. And yeah, sure, oftentimes it is an action, like it is following, it is complying um, to a directive, to direction, to leadership, to whatever, right? But it's so much more than that because, well, because look at this. Um, Men in the army are submitting, right, to the sergeant or whatever, but I wouldn't really call most of them energetically submissive. Not feeling much from army men being energetically submissive. So even if the action is submissive, so it's the energy of submissiveness that a woman can maintain all the time, because setting boundaries, giving direction, giving judgments, whatever, it's very masculine. It's very masculinizing. It's very draining. It's not fun for a woman, and it does not inspire devotion from men. And so, one of the really big problems, right, with women who are really don't like this idea of submitting to all men, guess what? Part of the reason you don't like that idea is because you are not inspiring devotion from men, right? Why? Because you're guarded, you're resistant, and you're leading, and you're judging, and you're masculine. And so you're getting like your reality is that men are just, are there to use you or take advantage, or are just terrible leaders. They're incompetent, they're selfish, whatever. That's your reality. Guess what? The reality of many and an increasing number of our academy students, women students, is that men everywhere are stepping up to devote to them, to consider them, to give them what they need, to protect them, to whatever. And why is that? Is because they have learned increasingly to be energetically in that submissive state. And that naturally polarizes the crap out of men everywhere. Step up and lead and to devote to those women. Right? So they're living in a very different reality. They're living in a much different reality than the vast majority of women. And the kind of women that say, oh my God, I would never submit to all men. I will only submit to the most dominant man in the world. Yeah, that's great. He's not coming for you, though, because he's looking for a woman who is just energetically submissive all the time, right? Who's not masculine all the time and then takes her femininity out of her purse when a man finally proves that he's dominant enough for her. No, he's not going for you. He's going for a woman who's submissive all the time, energetically, because that's what inspires him. Women who can only take their femininity out of their purse with a really dominant man, they're a lot of work. They're a lot of work. And dominant men, they're too busy on their purpose for a lot of work. They want a woman who energizes them instead of drains them. So this is a challenge for all women, is to be energetically submissive all the time with all men, right? And especially with the man that you find like for your relationship. And it's challenging because it all sounds so great, and it's like you've done, maybe you're like, oh, that sounds cool, right? I'd love to do that. I'd love to be in that energetic, submissive, flowing state all the time, even with all men, with women, with everybody, with my children, even. But I can do these yoga poses in the woods and be in the submissive state, and I can just flow around in the trees and all this stuff. But then when it comes to interacting with men, I just like start freezing up, and I'm all contained and guarded, and start like judging and resisting and all this kind of stuff. So what's happening? It's because you don't know how to communicate. You don't have the communication skills to stay in that energetic flow, in that submissive state all the time. So when men say things or lead in a certain way, you're going to not really know what to do. You're not going to know what to do. You're not going to know how to continue flowing. You're not going to know how to continue expressing your needs, your feelings, your problems, your desires in a feminine way, and have an interaction where you can stay energetically submissive. And this can be a problem inside a relationship, and it can be a problem outside of a relationship. You need to learn this, right? If you want to be in that state of flow and just attract the crap, like inspire devotion everywhere you go, you need to know how to communicate. You need to become really, really good at communicating those things, right? Not setting boundaries and giving directives and all of that stuff. Communication is important. Communication is a pathway, is an exercise in getting you into that submissive state and staying in that submissive state. How do I know when a man is leading me out of leading? Well, I mean, it'd be pretty obvious if I was doing it, or if any man from the academy was doing it. They would say something like, "Hey, you're leading right now. Don't do that. Just ask permission, or tell me your feelings," or something like that. Right? They're going to call you out on it, lovingly, of course, right? Lovingly, but firmly, because they are increasingly dominant men. That's how you lead a woman out of leading. Of course, most men don't know how to do that, and then they just tolerate it, and they're not in touch with their instincts, and they end up just allowing a masculinized woman who leads, to push them away slowly but surely. And that's very tragic, because it doesn't have to be that way. Never has to be that way. If you learn how to properly communicate, stay in your feminine, stay in that energetically, in that unbelievably beautiful, inspiring, submissive state, right? That men just love and feel inspired to devote to. It really is beautiful. In the same way that like a woman is like, oh my God, like this is amazing. A man who's just has these boundaries and can just lead, and just like, I just feel that take charge energy. I just feel totally safe and like putty around him, right? That's what it's like for a man who's is in touch with his instincts, when a woman is in that energetically submissive state. So you got to learn how to communicate so that you can stay in that energetically submissive state, no matter what happens with the man, with your man, other women, everybody. That's what I would like to teach you in our upcoming masterclasses. How does that sound? Got 2-hour masterclasses with Mark Benet and I, where this is what we talk about, right? I'm talking a lot of theory right now. I'm not giving much in the way of practical examples, context, all that stuff. In our masterclass, we just throw practical examples at you. Lots of context, lots of practical, like showing you exactly how to communicate all the words. It's like we were going to teach you Spanish. Like, here's your nouns, here's your verbs, here's your adjectives, here's your adverbs. That's what we're doing with feminine communication, as well as masculine communication for men. And learning that, you can take this 2-hour masterclass, and afterwards, literally, you can be more polarized right away and start shifting your relationship, shifting your love life, just shifting your life in general, right? At work and with kids, whatever, because you now have the basic communication tools to start staying in that submissive state as a woman, or staying in that more dominant, take charge state as a man. It's 2 hours. It's $47. It is life-changing if you actually apply it. How can you say no to that? Can't, shouldn't. So if you want to join our masterclass, and of course you do, comment below, I want in. 3 magical words, and I will reach out to you, and I will send you the link to book before it gets filled out, before it gets sold out yet again, you can book it and take that next step to really change your life and really start learning how to apply this. So it goes from conceptual, which isn't going to do you much good, to practical, right? And you start moving towards embodiment. Comment I want in below, and I'll reach out and we'll get you all set up.